Welcome to Pitch with the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a former statistics professor. This is your host, Professor Sides, alongside Cousin Jared for college football. We are back after a couple weeks off. This episode here, we're going to cover some early bowl games and the first round playoff games. We'll have two more bowl shows coming in later weeks to cover the remaining bowl games and remaining playoff games. But for now, we've got a nice little episode here to talk about some of the early playoff games, the early bowl games, discuss a lot of what we missed here these last few weeks. I mentioned this on the college basketball show. Apologies, everyone, for no shows these last 2 weeks. As I mentioned, we were in Austin with doing an intensive therapy with our son Hudson, who has an ultra rare genetic condition, and it went really well with regards to the progress he made, but it was very not conducive for recording in the setup and the way that the places we were at laid out, all the travel, everything was chaotic. So because we had a lot to talk about here with regards to college football since it's been a few weeks. I don't even know where to start, really. There's so many places. Where do you want to start?
I've got copious notes here of everything that I wanted to cover since, it's been a while since we've been here.
Buckle up, viewer.
But I feel like the first thing we need to talk about is just the playoff, because I know that's the kind of the hot button topic of the moment. Some of the other stuff has kind of passed by, but I want to talk about the playoff and your thoughts on that and feelings, what's right, what's wrong, what we need to fix, if anything needs to be fixed. It's a hot button thing right now.
It is. You're so right. And I as a math guy, I'm probably a little biased in this take, but I mean, I don't think the BCS was that bad. I think it started off pretty good. I think it got worse every time they tinkered with it because they tried to. The problem is they don't understand the things that we talk about on the show all the time, which is all models are wrong, no models are perfect, right? Some models are useful, right? That concept. And they built something that's pretty good, and they had a wonky scenario where 1 year things went weird and there wasn't really a way to make it right. And they went, oh, well, if we had done this one thing other way, this would have worked out well. And the problem is that then created a negative effect on the next one. And they said, well, what if we change this thing? It'll affect. And that created a negative for the next one and the next one and the next one, and on it went. And it became, a shell of itself and not nearly as good as it was even towards the start of the middle of it. But even then, I like that there was an analytical approach to this, because the committee is insane. It's the stupidest thing. I think we might look back at the creation of the college football committee as the stupidest thing in sports in the 21st century. I mean, there are a lot of stupid things in the 20th century in sports. I mean, I didn't realize this because on Twitter, I learned recently, here that there was a player who played in baseball, played 4 seasons in the late 1800s, then murdered his family. And in the 1930s got 4 Hall of Fame votes or 2 Hall of Fame votes or something. He had 4 seasons, murdered his family, but 2 people were like, yeah, you should get in the Hall of Fame.
But was he taking steroids? That is the more important question.
Right. That's the So there are a lot of stupid things in sports in the 20th century, but the 21st century, I think the committee might be the worst of all of them, because every year it's been a joke from the start. Every week the meetings change, the rankings change just based off their wins, and they're coming up with what they want, and they're coming up with their justifications after that. There's no consistency from week to week, season to season. It's been a disaster from year one when they decided, this Baylor TCU thing is really hard. Let's just put Ohio State in. And not to say Ohio State obviously won the title that year. They were a very good team, peaked at the right time, but that didn't necessarily mean they were deserving over Baylor and TCU on that one. And it hasn't gotten any better. Yeah. There's been years where there's been 4 clear teams in the past, and it's been no big deal or whatever, but I don't know. I just think that's part of the problem is you don't have any, guidelines. You don't have any criteria really. There's no metrics that matter. There's no, this is how we're going to do this. And so they just make up whatever they want week to week. And I think obviously the Notre Dame AD's been a hot button topic, and should he have gone completely scorched earth? Yeah, probably not. But when you hear what he's saying, I'm like, I don't really disagree with what you're saying about things.
Right.
Even if maybe, it wasn't handled the perfect way. I don't know. Where's your head on this college football playoff situation, Cousin Jared?
I don't really know where to start. I mean, if I just had to recap the issues with how just the final, from the, penultimate rankings to the final rankings, why is Georgia number 3 and Ohio State 2? I feel like those should be reversed. There's some stuff you could have done with Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Georgia that could potentially, not penalize the 2 seed as much there, avoid some rematches.
That's
dropping
the dumb one to me. Why in the world are we playing Tulane and Ole Miss over again? That's just, I don't
Yes.
understand that one.
Yes, exactly. That game does not need to happen again. We saw that the first time. Why
Neither
was
does
BYU?
Alabama, Oklahoma.
Yeah, exactly. Why was BYU penalized for losing their conference championship game and Alabama was not? The list just goes on. And of course, the flipping of Miami and Notre Dame, the big one that everybody talks about. And and I'm going to go in a little bit of an aside here, but having two G5 teams in, and I can't believe that I'm saying this. I mean, having G5 representation in a playoff has been something that I have, yearned for my entire life. But
Decades we've talked about this.
yes. But college football has changed over the past 5 years in ways that we probably could not have foreseen. And I certainly want the playoff to be accessible to G5 teams. But I feel like when we think about the G5 teams that should have been in a playoff back in the day, you're talking about 12-0 Boise States, 11-1 Boise States, 11-1 TCUs, teams that just throttled their competition, played well against big schools when they acquitted themselves well, or potentially won those games. Boise beating Virginia Tech in some seasons, beating Oregon a couple of seasons. Those are the teams.
This one right here.
Yeah. Of course, that one. And so those are the teams that need to be in the playoff. I was not wanting necessarily a 10-2 Tulane team who got throttled by another playoff team in the playoff. So there's just a lot of different things. The way that I have, and I don't want to say there's a way to fix it, because I don't think there's necessarily a way to fix it per se. But I just think that, and I don't know what the verbiage is. This is one of the most annoying things that you're like, hey, here's the problem, but I don't have a proposed solution to it specifically. But I think the committee there needs to be something that, like, the committee's goal is to act in the best interest of college football. And
it's like we talked about the talk of having a commissioner. The same thing, having a person whose only interest is to do everything in the best interest of the sport.
Yes. Considering, I mean, we talked about the college basketball show, but considering that Utah basically just sold their athletic department, I don't think that having a commissioner, I don't think he'll ever get these schools to act in their best interest, but maybe we can get a collective group of people for a playoff to act in the best interest of the playoff. And so, is that best interest, in my opinion, was Notre Dame being in the playoff, only maybe one of those G5 teams getting in the playoff, taking more consideration into where these games are being played, and not just, saying, okay, well, as the crow flies, this location is closer to this one. That means that's where they're going to play. Just some more, and you could argue there is no common sense from the committee, but I'm just asking for more common sense. Is that too much to ask for? I feel like I'm looking for a political candidate that hasn't existed for 30 years.
Right. Yeah. Very well said. And I think, Utah is its own thing. And Cousin Jared, I think we and I talked off show about this. We don't even really know what to make of this. It just happened here today. And, we know the same details, viewer, that which is $500 million partnership. Utah will still have full control, but it does make you wonder. Then you see these things about exiting partnerships and all the VC stuff. We talked about this in a previous show, right?
Yeah.
It's now starting to happen, and where it goes and the whys and all that stuff is its own thing. And we're venturing off into crazy uncharted territory. And I'm not saying it's always wrong. I'm not saying that new is always wrong. It changes. I have some questions here about the logistics. I don't really think it makes a lot of sense, but I don't want to be that like, oh, anything new is bad and change is bad, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying change is happening. I'm not sure it's great. I think there's some good in it. I think there's some concerns. And anytime you have all these questions, like you said, having somebody to try to figure this out and keep things in a row. And I know there's a lot of people who've been calling on Congress to do stuff. I don't know. You can barely get Congress to agree on what color grass is at this point. We're so divided between the two parties. Yeah. I'm not sure what'll happen there. And I'm not sure how much teeth that'll have anyway. So I just want to talk about the NCAA, but the NCAA abdicated their responsibilities of this stuff a decade ago. And that's been part of the problem, is that they had the they were the thing that should have been that body to have that common sense and step in and do these things. But they, for years now, have long just said, oh, we don't want to be controversial. We don't want to have to make the whatever. And so they've just basically, by doing nothing, have basically created the power vacuum and schools and ADs and coaches and boosters and now venture capital firms are saying, "Oh, here's a power void here. We'll step in."
Yeah.
It's just gotten complicated. I don't want to get too far off topic here because I think we could talk for hours about this, but I think it's kind of a recap with the playoff thing. Like I said, it's almost confusing where to start because there's just so much that went wrong with it. The only thing seemingly that went right, in my opinion, are the things that they couldn't get wrong. Indiana had to be number one. It's what it is there.
Yep.
But beyond that, it seems like so much was messed up. I don't understand how Texas was never going to make the playoff while Oklahoma was a shoo-in. Because to me, those teams should be pretty similar. I'm not saying Texas should be in. I actually kind of think Oklahoma should be out because I don't see how they're different. I think that, Texas lost to Ohio State. Oklahoma beat Michigan. Oklahoma played their game at home against a much weaker team. And Texas went to Columbus and lost to a top 5 team, one of the top teams in the country. According to Sideline, still the number 1 team in the country. A team that post-game win expectancy was higher than 50% against Indiana and was one play with 3.5 minutes to go from winning that game and covering, right? So,
right.
I think if you flip those, Oklahoma loses to Ohio State and then Texas beats Michigan, then Texas is in, Oklahoma's out. And it's like, why should that be the thing that changes it, right? Shouldn't other things matter? And that one to me blows my mind, that why those teams were viewed so differently. It blows my mind that Alabama is in, just in general. I kind of think, I'm not sure Oklahoma or Alabama are that good. I think Notre Dame should have been in over both of them.
Yep.
I don't know. It's weird. It's all weird.
And as much as it pains me to say this, I agree. If I were putting together my 12-team field, I wouldn't have Oklahoma and I would not have Oklahoma and Alabama in the field. I would obviously have Notre Dame in the field. Yeah. And my heart wants to put Vanderbilt in, but they've got the head-to-head loss to Texas. And so that's, if I came down to it, I'm like, I'd probably put Texas in as my 12th team.
That's where I was going to go. I was going to say, to me, it's Notre Dame's in, Bama, OU, Texas, and Vanderbilt are all like the same. And it's the funny thing is, because Jared, I made that comment weeks ago. I've been talking about it. There was a week where the SEC had like 8 teams tie, like basically like in a row in Sideline. It was like the top 6, and then the SEC was like number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12, number 13.
Yeah.
And we said, that's kind of how we said, we're like, the SEC is just a jumble of a bunch of really good but no elite team. It turned out Georgia kind of leapt to the top of that. A&M was more towards the top of that as well.
Yeah.
But there was some shifting around on that, and I kind of think they were all similar. So to me, it's like, you get the teams that need to be in, like the Notre Dames of the world, and then you get to that last spot, and then you say, well, there's 4 SEC teams. They're all kind of similar, and then you got to figure it out. And then I'm like you. I would have gone with Texas because Texas beat both Oklahoma and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
At that point, at least, I'm like, well, if you argue those 4 and you figured out something logical, I don't think it's crazy. I just don't make, how did 2 of those teams get in over Notre Dame, and how was Texas the team that might have been the better of those 4, not even in the conversation? And if Texas, I'm not losing sleep over that one. It's like, it's a big deal. It's just, the whole thing is just, doesn't make a lot of sense. And I will say 2 things here I want to say kind of on my closing thoughts on this. Number 1, I will say there is no fix. And you kind of made the comment on that because, Jared, there will be no perfect. Perfect will be the enemy of good here. The reason I say that is, I don't know, folks, if you've heard about it, a little thing in March coming up, March Madness. We're 4 months away. And folks, we will be arguing then over who like the 34th and 35th best at-large teams are. We have no chance of winning, really.
Yep.
So we're going to be doing this no matter what. And that's part of sports. That's fun. It gives us something to enjoy, connect about, right? That's a lot of the human experience about connection. So it's not about finding something that's perfect, but I think it's, to me, the second part of this thought is, in college basketball, when you're talking about the 35th or 38th or whatever the number happens to be that year based off the at-large situation, who that best team is a little bit of a different cry than with college football with where we're at. We're at teams that Notre Dame was like the 3rd favorite or something to win the title. You're talking about, you had a team out that really could have won. And you're putting 2 group of 5 teams in, and again, I'm fine with the 1 having 2 is like, you're putting 2 in that neither one of them is going to have a chance. I mean, they're both going to get almost assuredly smoked. And it just doesn't, we can't get perfect, but we can do a heck of a lot better than this. And I feel like we've been saying that for a decade now, and we're still here.
Yep, that's true. I think my issue is like more existential in that if I were trying to get somebody to watch college football, and maybe it's just like the time that we live in now, but if I'm trying to get somebody to watch college football, I think I can maybe make the argument that like the product on the field has never been better than what it is right now. But if you asked me the inner workings of college football, I would be like, just don't pay attention to any of that. Like, just forget how people are ranked and how you make the playoff and everything outside of the games actually taking place. Forget all that. Don't pay attention to it.
Just go to some games, enjoy the atmosphere,
Yes. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pageantry, the camaraderie, watch them
Yeah.
on TV, watch on a
Yeah.
Saturday when there's like 7 games you're trying to watch at one time. There's not a lot better than that in life, right?
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
else. Just ignore the rest.
Yes.
Which is good for us on this side of the aisle, being on the betting part. We are college football fans, obviously, as
Mhm.
well. But the betting part of it, we don't have to care about that. We just get to say in a few minutes, we get to move past all this stuff and say, who cares? We're going to talk about these games whether we like them or not, and we're going to figure out how to make money off of them.
Yeah.
Which is we think we get to avoid all that crap.
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't even like get to any of the hypocrisy of the conference championship games where everybody wants the benefit of winning, but nobody wants the penalty of losing, and the conferences just won't let go of them because they make money. There's just a whole lot more to it, but yeah, we'll call it there on the playoff discussion, so we can get some of the other stuff I have on my list here.
All right. We will get to picks, I promise. So we will get to, we got the slides and everything. So when you see the slides pop up, that's when we're just talking about college football, the landscape and what's happened. So if you just want to get to the picks, they're coming. Hang with us.
Yeah. So the second thing I want to touch on is the coaching hires, and I'll give a lot of my thoughts here, and then I'll let you, either react to some of that or, add in anything that stuck out to you.
Yep.
I thought the best hire from the whole cycle was James Franklin at Virginia Tech. I thought that was great because he's basically turned Virginia Tech's recruiting class into Penn State's recruiting class. And if you had told Virginia Tech, hey, you'll trade places with Penn State, they would have said, sign me up. So
also, if you had told them the guy at Cersei, the guy who's your head coach, not a bad coach overall. He's not like it's a terrible, it's just, really great defense and couldn't quite figure it out. But he's going to just next year, he'll just be your defensive coordinator instead. Yeah. They would all be like, that's cool. Yeah. That sounds like an upgrade. Like anytime he's your head coach, he's your DC, that's an upgrade, right?
Yeah. All those relationships that you spent time investing in, he's still going to be there. Yeah. The guy that your parents loves, he's still going to be there. So yeah, I think that was really good. The two hires that I had right behind that actually were both on the same day.
I think we're both. I'm going to agree with both of these. I think.
Yeah. So Jim Mora going to Colorado State, thought that was a really good hire, not only because of what he did at UConn, but also like looking back at it now, him consistently winning like 8 games at UCLA has become more impressive with every passing year. So love that hire for Colorado State. And then Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. Why Eric Morris did not get some consideration for some of these SEC jobs, I do not know. But I love the Eric Morris hire. I think that's just like the biggest home run that Oklahoma State could have hit with that one.
100%. I was begging, if you follow me on Twitter, I was begging Baylor to reconsider their stupidity of we're not going to hire a new coach this year and go all in on Eric Morris. I was talking to my dad about this days before he was hired at Oklahoma State, and I made the comment. He made the comment. He's like, "Well, would Baylor even get him, or would somebody else better?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I'd just like to try. I like to find out.
Yeah,
I'd like to have gone in, offered him the big truck of cash, and said, "Hey, you want to come here? You're a Texas boy. Stay in state with us, right?" And I said, I don't think there's a lot of better jobs out there for him at this point than Baylor. I said, I don't think, I said, Texas is the asterisk if Texas opens up because we're still not sure what's going to happen with Sarkisian at this point. And I said, otherwise, A&M's not going to open up. I said, Tech's not going to open up, which is obviously, I think, his dream job being, that's his alma mater. And I said, once you get past those, I said, Baylor and TCU might be like the next 2 best jobs for him being a Texas guy in the Big 12. I said, unless you get to those really top tier jobs. And I was like, Arkansas is kind of the one. I was like, Arkansas should go after him, or the Auburns, like some of those SEC schools. I said, that'd be the one. I said, at this point, we weren't even thinking about who would hire him specifically. I was just saying, that'd be the one where if Baylor was throwing their name in the ring, that, maybe in Arkansas, Auburn, whoever like that goes after him and is like, I'm like, hey, it is what it is. But I was like, an Ole Miss, I thought was probably too big of a stretch. I didn't think they would go for him. And so I was like, we might have it. And all of a sudden, Oklahoma State hires him. I'm like, hey, obviously Baylor was never going to get him, but I mean, home run hire for him. Our friend who was on season 1 of Picks of the Professor, Jack, is an Oklahoma State alum, and I'm happy for his future as an Oklahoma State football fan. I think it's good times ahead for them. Yep,
definitely. I somewhat disagree in that I think Florida should have gone for Eric Morris because after Tim Tebow, who's been the best quarterback that Florida's had in the past 15 years? Like that half season of Anthony Richardson or Kyle Trask? And the fact that you could hire Morris. The fact that you could hire Morris and you probably get Drew Mestamaker, I just feel like that was a good match. But
that would have been a good one too.
It would have been. Overall thoughts though is like I can't get over how few dumb decisions I feel like have been made so far on the coaching carousel.
Been one or two, I think, but yeah, it's not been terrible.
Well, I'm just going to go through here and read through a few of them that I think are good hires. Mark Carney got hired on at Kent State. They hired him after he won 3 games. If he would have won 1 game, I would have said hire Mark Carney as the head coach at Kent State. So good hire there. Bob Chesney going from James Madison to UCLA, like that one. Matt Campbell at Penn State. Why that took 56 days to happen, I do not know.
With Penn State, I think we talked about at the time, my biggest issue with Penn State firing James Franklin, not that I didn't understand it, we talked about that, right? And I got that they wanted to move on, was I was like, I think there's a really good chance the best coach they could hire out there now is James Franklin. And as the cycle went along, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just that they're going to downgrade. They're going to downgrade like miles because these names are getting swept up and they're not whatever. And they're going to be wishing for James Franklin in 3 years. And then they got Matt Campbell. I'm like, okay, they actually did get a good coach. I felt like it drug on long enough. I was worried for him.
Exactly.
But especially when the Sataki thing happened, and it turned out he wasn't really interested. I was like, oh man, this is looking bad for them. And then they got back, and I'm like, that's really surprised me. I kind of figured Campbell was like a lifer at Iowa State, to be honest.
And so I think that's good fit for him, good fit for Penn State as well. And I can't remember what the exact number was, but it's something like Matt Campbell's won like 40% of his games against top 10 teams in Iowa State, which, is what they're trying to fix. And I mean, he won 40% of those games. And I promise you, Iowa State was not, in the top 10 or 15 for a majority of those games.
If you look at if you combine the money line on those and the implied probabilities, they probably should have won about 20% of them. Not 40.
Exactly. Golesh at Auburn, Jason Candle going from Toledo to UConn. I think that was literally the best that UConn could have done in their situation.
That one, I'm skeptical of that one. Just because I feel like Toledo always finds a way to crap the bed as big favorites, and I don't know what to make of that. Like, I think it was a solid. I think you're right. I think it probably was the best UConn could have done.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit like I wouldn't be surprised if the best they can do turns them into a 4 or 5 win team again. They're going to need they're going to need some favorable scheduling help. I feel like they get to make their whole schedule right, but making sure they schedule to keep these bowl games going because. I'm a little bit nervous if they start playing real competition, what will happen. I'm not sold on him as a head coach, but I do think you're right. He might have been the best UConn could have done. It's not a really desirable job.
Yes, exactly. Love Will Stein at Kentucky. Love Brian Hartline at South Florida. Love Charles Huff at Memphis. We've talked about him.
And we talked about that a lot. We knew he should have gone somewhere better. It was like,
love Colin Klein at Kansas State as much as it pains me to let him go as an A&M fan. I love.
We kind of saw that one come. We kind of knew that was coming, though, right? I mean, that was obvious.
Yeah, this was like whoever it was, Mike McDaniel or something, being hired on as the DC at Michigan from Baltimore Ravens, and then like the next year being promoted or taking the job as the DC in Baltimore. It's like John Harbaugh sent him to Jack Harbaugh for a year just to like season him. That's what Kansas State did. They're like, hey, go coach somewhere else. Call your own offense for a while, and then we'll bring you back.
Prove you can do this, and then we'll make you man.
Exactly. And then Billy Napier at James Madison. I mean, Napier built up Louisiana, before he went to Florida really well. I think he's going to do well at James
Madison.
Madison.
A reason he's been dubbed Sunbelt Billy. That is his spot. That's where he should be, and I think he'll do really well there. Silverfield, the Memphis coach, that I think was probably the biggest. I'm not a fan of what Memphis did this year. They've really struggled down the stretch. They started off. We've been a concerned with Memphis for years now. They've constantly done these. It really reminds me of Charlie Strong. Old name probably haven't thought of in a while at Louisville. I remember when Texas hired him, I was very adamant. I was like, I am not convinced with this hire. And the reason why was because we watched a lot of Louisville games the year before, watched a lot of Lamar Jackson. It was like, and I was watching those games and like, if this coach has this guy in this conference, and we're seeing the mistakes they were making and the struggles they were having, I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to go at Texas. Like, I don't really like this at all. And it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like the stuff at Memphis feels that same vibe, where it's like, You're at a smaller program. You've got the talent, and yet things are always going awry. Every season, every which way possible, multiple games a season. This year, I thought they had it figured out. They started off so strong, and then the wheels completely fell off at the end. And I'm like, that one, I'm like, I'm just not sure. I don't like, it's not the vibe. I just don't like the results really of what they've done. I just don't really feel like that to me is the least inspiring hire.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, anybody who's watched this show for any length of time knows my feelings with Memphis. And I'm like you, it's just a general level of inconsistency. I think that has bothered me. But at the same time, I do feel bad for Arkansas from the perspective of, is there a more, I'm sure there is, but like Kentucky, maybe. Well, but you would have said this about Vanderbilt too. Like, is Arkansas the most hopeless P4 job? And it feels like maybe so. But again, I would have said that about Vanderbilt. A few years ago, I would have had Vanderbilt far and away the highest school on that list. And here we are. So nothing's impossible.
I think or Indiana.
No, hello. Yeah.
Indiana has more losses than any team in FBS history.
Yeah, history. Yeah, not history. Yeah, there's no disclaimer. Just no period.
Ever. Period.
Yeah, ever. Yeah.
So I think you're right. Having Indiana and Vanderbilt would have been at the very bottom of that list, partially because the conference and the competition. And you're thinking, if you're starting off as you don't have the pedigree, you don't have the facilities, you don't have the money, you don't have the boosters, you don't have the threads, you don't got nothing. All of a sudden, you're asked to compete against, in Indiana's case, every year, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, all these, and obviously the SEC is its own thing. So I think you're right. There are some jobs that are going to be really tough, but we've seen all these turnarounds. I feel like Eric Morris against the guy. If I was Arkansas, I would have been all in on it. Maybe they were. I don't know. Because I think him, would have been a great fit there. But there are a lot of really good in the coach cycle. What else you got for us?
Okay, so I'm going to wait on one of these. We're going to talk about this team probably in our next episode that we do. So I'm going to wait on that topic. And this is one that I know you and I are going to agree on, but I just have to verbalize it. Who do you think should win the Heisman?
We've literally not talked about it. So the fact that you say that we're going to agree, I think is interesting because I feel I'm not certain we're going to go. I would give it to Jeremiah Love.
Really?
Really? Yeah, I think so. And the reason why is because running backs never win the thing. I think all the quarterbacks struggled, and I think he was the best running back this season. I think he was the best player in college football this season. And I think I would give it to him. Second, I would have I think I put Pavia. And then I think after that I go Mendoza, and then I think fourth I go Sayan would be my
okay. Yeah. No, I'm very surprised here. See, I think Pavia should win. Yeah. I mean, just look at what he's done. I know this isn't supposed to be a lifetime achievement award, but I mean, come on. He took New Mexico State to a bowl game and won 10 games at Vanderbilt. I mean, just come on.
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to say other than in a year where nobody in my mind really set themselves apart. I feel like Pavia set himself apart as much as anybody else did, and he's done so much for the program.
You're almost going the MVP route. The whole he's been so valuable to this team. Look at what this team has usually been, and look at what they are now.
Yes, exactly. Because if we were genuinely giving it to the best player, maybe Love could have it then.
That's right. That's why I go there.
But the best player, I mean, Rodriguez from Texas Tech, one of the receivers from Ohio State. I don't even care which one. Just pick one. Are players that are better, but with the finalists that we have, I think I would pick Pavia. Anyway, I'm surprised that you said Love.
I think I go Love. I think this is like me being quirky. I like to have a little bit of a contrarian opinion at times, but also I think I like the idea that it's not just a quarterback award, which means I want to see some non-quarterbacks win it. So I'm a little bit biased. If there's a chance to not give it to a quarterback, I want to do that. Just because it's always quarterbacks. And so I think that's kind of my take. If you remove that aspect of it, and if you go more the MVP, I have probably a second. I agree with that. And a close second, really. I think I just go with Love because of the running back thing. And again, I think I just think of the top guys, I just think he was the best. I think, and then I would go Mendoza third, kind of for the same thing you said about Pavia, and then it's like, hey,
for sure.
We were talking about this before. We're gonna bring back some of what we talked about in the first time Alabama Oklahoma played because we just freaking nailed it so much. I want to go back to week 0 because Jared, you and I had a show. We talked about Indiana, and you made the comment. You said basically that if Fernando Mendoza is really a top 25 quarterback, and everybody in the world at that time hears that and is skeptical. And we're all like, is he? Maybe. I don't know. We were all on the fence. Yeah. And there were some people who were saying, heck no. Yeah. And at the time he was ranked 29. And you said, hey, Sideline seems to think he's right around that top 25 mark. And you said, if Sideline's right, You think Indiana could be about as good as they were last year. Turns out right now, Sideline has Fernando Mendoza ranked number 4 quarterback. Much better than any of us ever thought. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, you nailed it. You were like, hey, if Mendoza's good, they're going to be good. Turned out Mendoza was great. Indiana was great. And so to me, that's why I think I put him third because of that factor right there. But I think between those three, I think all three are deserving. But I would give the edge to Pavia just because what he's done at Vanderbilt is so impressive. What Mendoza did is impressive, but they had a really good year last year too without him. You know, and so I think to me that gives him the edge there. But sorry to disappoint you, cousin Jared.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I guess now we can talk about picks because my other topic we're gonna wait till next week's show, so we can make picks for this week.
All right, so we are recording this here on Tuesday, December 9th. Bowl pick show 1 of 3. We will record again. Our plan, at least as of now, and things change and our lives are always complicated, so you never really know. But our plan as of now, at least, is to record again on Sunday. That would be the 21st, would be the tentative plan, and that'll be episode number 2. And then we were to record again the following Sunday on the 28th, and that would be bowl episode number 3. So we got a bunch of bowl episodes coming at you here. Quick recap so far of how the season's gone. A grades for the season. Considered our most disappointing A grade for college football here in the last 3 years. Since we went to a player-based model, 30-year player-based model, by far most disappointing A grade season, still profitable. You know, I feel good when I'm very disappointed, and the A grade still profited. The honor roll picks that you can get over on Patreon profited as well. We were cursed on our show picks, unfortunately. But again, if you are paying money for stuff, you were taken care of, and that's what makes my heart happy because I really want to take care of people who are helping take care of my grocery bill. You know what I mean?
And let me say this because somebody made a comment on the latest YouTube video that I can't believe people are paying y'all for picks when our basketball show picks have not done the best. And I bit my tongue because I'm much past the point of responding to people on YouTube. But what you're paying for is data and access to Sideline and its projections, and it is up to you how you interpret that data, internalize it, assess it, and make picks on your own. We are here to guide you the best that we can, and what through our interpretations, but ultimately, what anybody who subscribes to our Patreon and gets access to Sideline, that's really what you're paying for, is that data and that analysis, that number crunching and everything. So I know both of us have never held ourselves out as the best bettors in the world, but you can see that we have data that we go off of. That data has proven to be valuable, and it's on us if we're not picking it correctly. So anyway, that's my little spiel about that.
No, it's very well said, and that's why one of the things we've talked about this too when we made the switch over from Dub Club, and nothing against the people there at Dub Club. The guy at the top running there, and still have a great relationship with him and love and respect him like crazy over there. It was just we kind of made the comment. We realized we were very unique in that it's not just about picks. It's not just about what does this person say. Do it. Information, analysis, discussions, insights. It's that we're a little more unique in that regard. And so it's more of a fuller package than just do this thing. And we talked about before too, about responsible betting, smart betting, and how betting with a community can help, right? Doesn't mean you listen to everyone in the community necessarily. It just means having that community around helps keep us a little bit saner with regards to sometimes gambling can become a little bit of a downer, right? And so all sorts of benefits over there on Patreon. And again, a lot of people who do that, again, like you said, they use the information in different ways, in ways that you and I can't even use it. And that's where that teamwork on the Discord helps too, because other people follow along and say, hey, I'm seeing this thing. I like this thing too. And we're all kind of learning and feeling out anyway. A lot of benefits there for these player-based models here that have shown a history of profiting there, as you saw on that previous stream. As we move forward here into the grades, of course, a reminder, 100 will be average, higher is better for offense, lower is better for defense. The grades are made based off of the probabilistic edge. And again, if you're looking for all that extra information, Patreon's a place to be. Link in the show description. You help us keep the lights on here, and we really do appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. Because our first game, I'm calling this game Why? Because why is there a bowl game this Saturday? I'm not opposed. I'm not mad. I'm not sad. I'm just like, what is happening here? I feel like we got Army Navy Saturday, and then we got the Heisman Trophy presentation, and then we've got a bowl game against two real teams. It's not like we're playing, East West Tech, whatever. It's a real game. Not complaining, but why? Anyway, Boise State versus Washington for the first time, here sporting the Boise State shirt from their undefeated Fiesta Bowl season. I actually played baseball in a summer collegiate wood bat league in Boise, Idaho, the summer after this. And so, decided to pick this up as a souvenir here. We're going to go under 52.5 as a B grade.
Nice.
We could have put this in the key numbers matter as that segment. We got one of those for you later though, so don't worry. We do have that we are 3-0 on our key numbers matter segment. This one could have been it because 52, 51 are key numbers there in the low 50s, and so we like that we get the winners on both of them. The sideline thinks upper 40s. Thinks this should be more like 48, 49, which are your key numbers there in the upper 4. Pace wise, this is a situation where both teams don't really play fast. Was pretty run of the mill type game. Washington's a better team. They're favored. They should be. But instead, we just think that this total more likely to be a little bit lower scoring than higher scoring. Cousin Jared just misses an A grade. But unfortunately, of course, before we get another key number, you need to be up something like 55. So probably not really going to get to A grade territory, but a strong B grade to start us off. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So aside from the fact that this is a key number, always like going over under key numbers, especially something like 52 and a half with this. I just don't have a good vibe about either of these teams. And what I mean by that is I think that one of these teams may just not show up. And so I think that's probably more likely to be Boise State. I think Boise State got their conference championship win, and they're kind of like, okay, hey, that's kind of the expectation at Boise State. We won the conference championship game. We're not in the playoff. We're not in a really big name bowl. It's kind of like, they're kind of done. I think in their mind. So I think it's probably Boise State that more has an issue with showing up. But I just think one of these teams really just has an issue moving the ball. Again, I think it's probably Boise, and this game more ends up like in the mid 40s. Mostly it's a key number, and I just don't feel great about either of these teams playing in a bowl game so early in the bowl season.
Yeah, it's super early, obviously, even more early than.
I mean, a regular week for Boise State.
Yeah, exactly. They literally played last week. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Not that this matters. I just think this is an interesting fact. These teams have played 6 times ever. Their first meeting was at 07. They played 2 years ago, and Washington has covered every one of those games, despite not even winning 2 of them. They covered as dogs twice. They covered and won as a dog. They covered as small favorites twice in their most recent matchup. The one 2 years ago before Washington went on to the, to do so well in the playoff that year. Before DeBoer went to Alabama, they won 56-19. That was kind of a beat. Not that any of that matters. I just think that's interesting. So far, these teams have been pretty straightforward with regards to the total. They've been combined pretty much 500 at it. So not really much of a trend thing to look at there, just more of a key numbers matter. And that's, again, what we could have called this segment, but in reality here, we got one of those later. But this total probably should be more about 50, in our opinion, than something like this. So even the win off 51, 52 is what matters. B grade to kick us off, and again, a regular week, but a bowl game here out in Los Angeles. You don't got to watch them to make the monies. And Cousin Jared, this one is one that we could have used as a segment title for 2 of the playoff games. So we'll have to remember that. Of course, you don't got to watch those playoff games as much as you want to. Some of them might be pretty brutal. But this one should be competitive, but quality-wise, this might be one of your lower quality bowl games if you look at the quality of teams. You've got a team in Troy barely in the top 100, and that's with Goose Crowder, who it looks like won't play. If you plug him out, all of a sudden they would drop out of the top 100. Now, asterisk, there is a lot of the rankings get really weird once we start putting in opt-outs, because then teams that are really good start being ranked really low because half their team doesn't play. If we took out all the opt-outs that happened, say for Iowa State, Notre Dame, if those teams have played in bowls, it would get weird. So technically Troy could still be in the top 100 because other teams might have had opt-outs or whatever. But bottom line, not very good. Jacksonville State, not really much better. So I does think this is a wrong team favored game, that Jacksonville State wins this 57% of the time. So we're taking plus 150. Because Jared, I don't think the Crowder thing matters much. Kilcrease has played most of the year. Sideline has them pretty similar. So which quarterback you get doesn't really do a lot for us. This is just really about both these teams are kind of met. Troy is in the better conference, but the Sun Belt's been down this year. And I haven't been that impressed with Troy, honestly. And I know someone made that comment. I don't remember who it was. One of the coaches heading up to the playoff show. They were like, why does, I might have been like Manny Diaz or something arguing for Duke to be in the playoff, was saying something about, James Madison doesn't deserve it because they barely beat Troy and Troy's not very good. And I was like, I kind of agree with you there. They struggled to put Troy away, and Troy's been good. Bottom, and not even in the top 100 in offense. So to me, this is more about Troy than the Jacksonville State. I think Jacksonville State's just kind of okay. I think they're solid, good for Conference USA, but overall they're not amazing, but I just am not sold on Troy. What's your angle?
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I think for me with Troy, the problem, at least my hang up on them, is that their offense really struggled in the first half of the year when Crowder was injured. Kilcrease started playing a little bit better, but then all of a sudden their defense wasn't playing as well. And then Crowder came back, and you're like, okay, well, now if they can just put it all together, they were still
And they scored
inconsistent,
like
but now
3
they're going
points or
back to
something that the
Kilcrease.
game he came back.
Yeah, and so it's just like one of those things where Troy's just been inconsistent all year, and the fact that without their starting quarterback, we can get plus 150 on Jacksonville State. It's just like I mean, I'll talk about this in one of the games later on, but it's like, could this line be wrong? Sure, but is it so wrong that Jacksonville State should be plus 150? No, it's not. And I think if I had to guess, we're going to see more games like this in bowl season where you're not really assessing who's playing, who's not playing, who's transferring, who's in the transfer portal but still playing, who's in the transfer portal and not playing. Those are all things to keep an eye on. I think we're just going to see some lines that are off. And for me, this is just one of those where it's like, okay, should Troy be favored? Sure. Should they be favored by this much? No. They should not.
Yeah, and I personally, I'm not even sure they should be favored. I kind of think I don't necessarily agree with 57% for Jacksonville. Say I think it's a little bit high. Sideline, I don't know. Simmer a little bit, buddy. But I do think if you said this game should be like a pick'em, I would have said that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I think that Troy, if they hadn't been so inconsistent this season, if Crowder was actually like full strength healthy, if the Sun Belt was better and they came to that conference and it was stronger, whatever, this line makes sense. But there's like all those things. I'm like, you can't just ignore all of that. Jacksonville State's been a pretty strong team. Couldn't quite get it done for us. We had them in the conference championship game there for Conference USA. Couldn't quite get it done as Kennesaw State took home that one in a very fun game. But we took plus odds on Jacksonville State there in a tight game. It's the same thing here. We're taking plus odds and we think it'll be a tight game. Doesn't mean they'll win. It just means, hey, tight game plus 150 is a grade value. You could also take the points, because Jared, what's your thought with regards to the 3.5 that you can get with Jacksonville State? Do you prefer more of a just take the money line because bowl games? Do you think it's about splitting it, or are you thinking this could be a tight game and taking the 3.5 solely?
Half, I would probably split my bet. Part of me wants to say that, just take the money line. If I had to pick one, I would definitely say take the money line. I think at 3.5, I would split my bet though, because I think there's more likely to, teams to do weird things to try to win at the end of game, go for two to tie the game up, to go over. I think people are just more apt to taking risks. And so, at a key number like 3.5, I'm like, sure, I'll split my bet there and just say weird things happen at the end of some of these games.
A bunch of these, there's going to be, and you mentioned it, going for two at the end of the game to avoid overtime, because you don't want to get anybody hurt. You don't get, what do you get an extra prize if you win the game? I mean, they want to win. I'm not saying they don't, but if you're 50-50 to win it on a 2-point conversion and you're 50-50 to win it overtime, you want to just get it done with, right? Go out and put your best play, your last play of the season, right? The one you haven't used all season, the one you've been storing up, right? And they're going to use that there. And then you're seeing a lot of maybe some 1-point games. The thing, because Jared, I could be wrong on this. My gut, my recollection, my memories of bowl season is basically, if you're taking the dog, take the money line, and if you're taking the favorite, lay the points, because we saw it last year. How many? I remember last year specifically. I don't remember previous years the specifics. I know it happens, but how many times we've seen these bowl games, a team favored by 5 loses by 35. Or something where we talked about, oh, you could have gotten so-and-so plus 37 and still lost.
Exactly.
There will be a 3-point game, and this might be it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, in general, you end up with higher variance on these final scores. So to me, your money line on dogs probably makes just more sense, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And exactly. You need even more so than usual. So A grade on Jacksonville State. Plus odds, A grade, as long as you get it. So no, go ahead and get it now. Wait, doesn't matter. This is going to be a great price for you here on the Gamecocks. But remember, you don't got to watch them to make the money. So it's a Tuesday night game at 9 p.m. I will not watch much of this game, because this game's probably not going to end till 12:30 Eastern. I will long be asleep by halftime for sure. So you can go to sleep, wake up in the morning, see how it went, right? Don't have to have anxiety about it. We got other things to deal with in life. Wednesday, 5 p.m. One much better time. We can watch this one. Old Dominion in South Florida. The folks, you're worried about the wrong key number on this one. We're going to lay 7. We laid 7 officially. You can send out all of our picks here about 24 hours. You go to everybody on Patreon. We laid the 7 with South Florida as an A grade. It's now 6, also an A grade. if you're worried about 6.5, 7, folks, even 7.5 probably, you're worried about the wrong key number. Sideline says 13.3 for this one on average. I mean, this one should be at least 10, if not 13, 14, according to the model. Should be a fun game. A lot of pace. Should be, you know, a lot of these early bowl games, if you've got pace, can get to be fun. And that doesn't mean this game won't be 20-13, but this game could be like 55-45. And that would be a lot of fun. Of note, we have Colton Joseph playing in this game because we sent this out early before we caught wind of anything else. Wanted to get this out and just see, not have to stress about it for this first set. We'll deal with opt-outs later on. With him out, the backup doesn't grade out that much worse. So the model's not really that down on that. But if we were to make that change, it's just something else that helps us out even more. Playing it with South Florida. Obviously, you mentioned at the start of the show, they are losing their head coach. Who knows what that means by the time this thing kicks? This thing's not going to kick for another, 8 days from now. I think at this point, we're just hoping that USF doesn't have like 19 opt-outs, right? That's really what we're doing at this point, right? Because we're just crossing our fingers, hoping most of the team plays.
Yeah. That's basically it. The only way I can come up with how they landed at this number is that they, in the fact that, we ran this, it was 7 and now it's 6. It hasn't really moved off of this number, is they're saying that South Florida losing Golesh is worth a full touchdown. Old Dominion losing one of the best quarterbacks in the Sun Belt is worth almost nothing. I don't care that Golesh went to Auburn. A majority of the coaches are still at South Florida. A majority of all of those same players are still at South Florida. Brown is still playing for South Florida as of the recording of the show. He's planning on playing. I mean, I can't believe the 180 we've had to do on South Florida here at the end of the season.
I know, right?
We were just fading them every week early on, and now it's like everything is just completely whiplash back the other way. And it's like, no, South Florida's good. They were being priced like they were great early in the season, and now they're being priced like they're okay. And no, the answer is they're between those. They're good. So yeah, losing Golesh is not worth the movement that I think we've seen because of that, and especially with Joseph not playing for Old Dominion. Lay the points for sure in this one.
It seems crazy to me that they were priced like they were a top 25 team from the start of the season. From the start, I mean, even in that Boise game, I think they were priced like that.
Yeah,
and we were sitting there going like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they're not a bad team; they're good, but they shouldn't be being priced like that. And they started covering, and the model was oh man, maybe the market was right. The model adjusted, and then all of a sudden the market stopped treating them like that. And so we were like, I guess we'll start backing South Florida, and then they're covering for us and winning for us now. And now the model thinks they're a top 25 team, but they're being priced like they're 40s or 50s. And so I don't quite understand. South Florida's been a weird team this year. But we're like the 7A grade with them. Jared, I think the last thing I want to say about this one is just a reminder for people, this is why we don't have any picks on any of the other later bowl games. We're going to do those later so we can deal with these opt-outs, have a better idea. Apologies for my day's a little bit off. We did this 48 hours ago. We sent out picks on Sunday night, just after bowl games have been set even. We haven't heard anything about opt-outs. We just wanted to get it out there, let people react to everything, and go from there. But as they get deeper and we have the bigger schools playing more of the opt-outs and everything, the model will have all that stuff incorporated. So you'll hear that in the future shows. For this one, like I said, to me, I think our biggest hope is we just have to hope nothing goes crazy and South Florida doesn't end up with a bunch of last-minute opt-outs. We've seen that before. Wouldn't be the first time that we've had, this quarterback's supposed to play, he opts out, right? And so to me, that was, you were saying the only way. To me, the other way I see this number is people know things and or suspect things, that there's enough money, enough resistance, or whatever. There's enough out there that they suspect that Brown isn't going to play or other guys aren't going to play. And again, folks, I'm not trying to say he isn't. So don't come to the comments and say, he's playing. We've seen that. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have seen a lot of times with bowl games, this guy's playing, this guy's not playing, and then all of a sudden, 15 minutes before kick, here's this thing, and you and I are texting, what the heck?
It was Cam Ward last year that played like one series, and Miami took him out, and we were like, this is the stupidest thing ever. So,
Yeah, there's stuff like that happens all the time. So that'd be otherwise if South Florida shows up and plays, they're the much better team in my mind. Yeah. But that does it for the early bowl games that are not playoff games, to the round 1 playoff games. And Jared, we could just roll the previous clip we did and just place it right here probably. Except there's a key difference. There's a couple key differences. First off, that game was in Alabama, and so we were getting 7 when the model said, that's probably about a 50-50 type game. And that's how it played out. This one's in Oklahoma. So, because Jared, Alabama being a slight favorite in this game, knowing that the home fields or they were a slight favorite, I guess. They'll move to now Oklahoma minus. No, they still are. They're a 1 point favorite. Alabama is a 1 point favorite. They were a 7 point favorite. If we give 3 points for home field for Alabama and Oklahoma, that's reasonable. Some of the smaller schools are definitely lower than that. Some of the bigger schools, you could argue, were higher even. Basically, what the market has done is said, no, that first game, we were right. And it was a fluky game. And we're going to hang the same number and say, nope, that was right. And the first game happened, and the models said, that's not what was supposed to happen. The model was right. And other models say, no, I'm still right. It's still the same thing. So no one's changed. No one's blinking. And so there's really not much else to add on this game because it's just changed location. And so we've just shifted it 6 points. But Sideline says Oklahoma wins this 58% of the time. So it's not 50-50 anymore because you changed it. Because Jared, Oklahoma's offense is really not good for Power 4 standards. It's really not good for playoffs. It's really terrible for playoffs. That said, their defense is really good. And because, Jared, you nailed it last time when you said Oklahoma, along with Texas and Texas A&M, were the three teams that could really get after quarterbacks in the SEC. They would get pressure on Simpson. That could really throw things off. And not that Simpson's not a good quarterback, but it just wasn't a great matchup, you thought. You thought Oklahoma had a real chance to keep that close and to hang in there, maybe win. Sure enough, they did. What else do we have to say that we hadn't already said on this?
Nothing. I'll just add to what you said. And this has been an issue, especially with Jam Miller being in and out of the lineup all season, injured for Alabama. Alabama can't run the ball. So that you see the number 20 offense there, that's almost completely being carried by the fact that Ty Simpson in that passing game is really good. And I think that's something that, I think, Sideline can only assess things in so many different ways. But the fact that Alabama being one-dimensional on offense allows Oklahoma's defense to attack them a specific way because they don't have to worry about the threat of the running game nearly as much. Nothing's changed. And I think that, it's obviously, if Alabama had an ability to improve the running game, they would have done it by now at this point.
They wouldn't have had what was -3 yards or whatever that last week. Come on.
Yeah. Or they would have, maybe what you would have expected from a team like Alabama is find a way to get the short passing game and the screen game going in lieu of running the ball.
They do that Mike Leach air raid type thing where it's like you use the short intermediate passing game as a running attack. Absolutely.
And they do that fine, but it's just not a replacement for just being able to run the ball for 4 yards when you need to run the ball for 4 yards. So everything's the same. Give me Oklahoma plus odds at home. Feels like a toss-up game. Give me the good defense at home.
Yeah, and this is out now, Oklahoma more in the -105, maybe -110 range. Again, over on Patreon, we have the thresholds of what makes the pick an A grade. For every single game. A little bit more of a, I don't want to say take it with a grain of salt with bowl games, just a little bit more of a understand with the bowl games, some of those thresholds a little bit different because we have a lot more uncertainty with opt-outs and if is guy going to play one series or whatever, things like that. When to play the playoff games. At this point, we're pretty, everyone's going to play hard, no opt-outs really, other than you might end up with like the Pribula last year opt-out, but that was the backup quarterback, right? That's a different situation.
Right.
So shouldn't really affect much here. Oklahoma, evenish money, A grade for us. Alabama's been, as the segment implies, cold as ice, baby. They've backed into the playoffs here. They've looked terrible. I don't think they're one of the best teams in the country. As you can see, Sideline doesn't think either one of these teams is in the top 12, much less top 10, which is what you needed to be this year in order to get in. But instead, whatever, here we are. Again, like I said at the top, we don't have to care about the fan part of it for this. Can we make some money off of it? For what it's worth for those teams, or for those people interested, our cold as ice, baby segment, 2-1 on the season once we started that one. Our Saturday spotlight noon game, the playoff game you want to watch, Miami at Texas A&M. We're going to take the dog in this one as well. Miami plus 160 as an A grade, as Sideline says Miami wins 57% of the time. Sideline's got them at number 6, A&M at number 13. It goes back to what I said at the top of the show, which is the model is just like all these SEC teams are really good, but maybe not quite as good. Georgia, I think, is up there. Again, has separated themselves a little bit higher than the rest of the teams. But as you can see here, the model's not enamored maybe with the SEC quite as much as it might have been in years past, as it's dropped A&M down to 13 after that Texas loss. Because Jared, obviously, I'll let you talk more about this one, being as you are an A&M grad. I want to hear your thoughts about the Texas game. Obviously, that was something. I want to hear your thoughts about this game and what you think it means. This one, I feel like we could talk for hours on this one game alone.
Yeah, yeah. On the Texas game, I mean, that was not the outcome I expected, but the game still kind of played out the way that I thought from the perspective of yeah, on again, a reason to be on Discord. I think Sideline had like a C grade or something on the total, basically no edge. I said I would play the under. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. Sure enough, that ended up being right. So the game, kind of played out like I thought from that angle. I think, and the other thing I said is I think A&M is going to get pressure on Arch Manning. I think it's going to be tough, and I think that we saw Arch Manning make plays with his feet and make throws on the run that he has been inconsistent with at times this season, and he was for the most part consistently escaping pressure and making especially after the first quarter. He had some times in the first quarter where he looked pretty sketchy, but after that he looked good. So I think that was, I put that more on Texas playing well offensively, getting what they needed from Arch in that situation. Where I am, where my concern is for A&M as it relates to this game, when A&M has struggled this year, I'm specifically thinking about the second quarter against LSU and a lot of that Texas game. When Marcel Reed gets under pressure and feels like he has to make a play, he is apt to throwing an interception. And that's what concerns me in this one, is that you've got this Miami defense. Sideline has them number 4. They've got the great edge rusher, and I think Ruben Bain. I think they're going to be able to get pressure on Marcel Reed. And how many turnovers is he going to have? On the flip side of that, you could say the exact same thing about Carson Beck.
I was going to say, we haven't talked about the opposing quarterback coach combination yet.
Yes. So I fully,
if you're sitting there, viewer, if you're watching this and you're just typing your weight, we will talk about, maybe wait until you make the comment. We know what you're thinking. We're going to say it ourselves too.
Yeah. So, but that is partly balanced out by the fact that yes, Carson Beck could throw 3 interceptions himself, or we could have some odd clock management stuff there at the end of the game for Miami. But with all of that being said, Sideline thinks Miami should be favored in this game. I'm right in saying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I agree with that. Feels like more toss up, maybe A&M favored by 1, 2, something like that. I think it's going to be a big home field advantage. But the moral of the story is it should not be plus 160. It should not be plus 3 or whatever you're getting. And we just talked about, in a lot of these bowl games, take the money line. This is one where I'm definitely splitting my bet, because if I can get 3 or 3.5 with Miami, and to your point with the clock management stuff at the end of the game, completely possible A&M wins this one by 3. So this just seems to me, it feels like a close, tight game. Who's going to have more turnovers? There's always the opportunity Miami screws something up at the end, and A&M wins by 3.
Because Jared, I get so much to talk about. Want to dive real quick detour into Texas and to specifically Arch Manning, who according to Sideline is now back up to the 10th best college quarterback, which he had dropped down to 30 or something and was heading worse midseason. I mean, it was falling. We're like, if he didn't turn this around, he's going to be playing for Rice next year, and all of a sudden he's turned it around and looked a whole lot better. Is Arch Manning back to being able to be drafted now? Is he what a turn of events from at the beginning, middle of the season? We were like, this guy's gonna, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, now maybe he's back. How much of that do you think is true?
Well, okay. So I feel like I'm being set up to get a lot of hate in the comments here. When and maybe there's a lot of other quarterbacks like this. I just don't, assess them the way that you would assess a quarterback like Arch Manning, or maybe I'm just not watching them close enough. But there are so many throws he has where his mechanics are just awful. But it's not like, you'll see a lot of guys with weird mechanics, I feel like, on their upper half, but it's like their lower half is at least generally either consistent in one way, or they're generating a lot of power from their lower half or something like that. You look at Arch and it's like Anthony Richardson level. There's some like pocket stuff that has to be worked.
I cannot believe that was the guy name I had. I was going to say Anthony Richardson, who ended up being a first round draft pick, was the one the comparison I was going to make, which was like, he was the same way coming out. We were all like, I don't know about this, y'all. I don't know if this can work out.
Yeah. So is he back from the perspective of he could be a really good college quarterback? Yeah, I think for sure. You saw him make plays on the run. You saw him escape pressure. You saw him do all the things that you need to have a good college quarterback to do. And if he can, just eliminate the really bad throws, like the throws where the guy is open and Arch throws it 3 yards in front of him on the ground. Like if he can just stop
Or the ones
those
where the
plays.
guy's wide open, and if he hits him in stride, you've got a touchdown, and he misses the throw, he underthrows him where the guy can still catch it, but the defender
Yeah.
caught up and now he got tackled as opposed to having the easy touchdown.
And like that sounds like a lot, but it's like if he could just be like 8% better with his throws, like I think you're gonna have a good quarterback. But it's just one of those things. It's like, man, it seems like if you don't have some of the basic things, if you don't have at this point with Arch, it's like, is it gonna get there? So, but I think he'd be a perfectly good college quarterback. All of my critiques would be at the next level.
If I'm going to do some rough math on this one, and this is not right, so no one try to quote me on this or anything, but I'm just saying rough math. If we say the average quarterback in the NFL's career is 8 years, I'm going to use round numbers to make it even. With 32 teams, that means that 4 quarterbacks every year that are drafted become starting quarterbacks. And it's not that simple because of injuries. So I'm just saying the top 4 become starters, more or less.
Yep.
And right now, Silent's got Arch at 10. And this is as for college support, so it's not direct comparison. So I'm just trying to make a simple illustration that just says, hey, if you want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, other than of course having the things that Sideline isn't looking at because it's trying to grade a college quarterback versus an NFL quarterback, and we don't even understand how scouting works anyway. We've always been terrible at scouting quarterbacks as a society. Blah blah blah. Just saying, 4 of them are going to make it as starting quarterbacks. He's still got work to do. Is kind of the bottom line that I would say there. And I think that what you said, and I'm going to say the same thing from my eyes, I've seen it watching the Texas game the week before against Arkansas. He had a play in that first half, and that game was back and forth, lots of points. We cruised to that over. That was a great call by you on that over. He had a throw for a touchdown throw at the end of the first half where he threw on the run, long play scrambled, and he did a great job scrambling out, great job finding the guy open downfield, except here's the catch. He throws on the run, and he doesn't throw across his body, but he doesn't set his body up well in order to turn as he's running this way, to turn a little bit to throw. He just opens and throws across across like that. And as he does that, there's a linebacker, the ball goes right through his hands, and then the receiver catches it wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. And the announcers praised him, oh, what a great, whatever. And I showed the replay, I was looking at him like, the scouts are not going to like that. They're going to love the scrambling, but they are not going to like the fact that he did all that, set himself up poorly with his footwork in order to throw a ball that could have, in the NFL, that's picked.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the receiver was open, except the fact that you got to get it to him. And there was a guy in the way that could have caught it or at least should have deflected it. And so I'm with you. I think Manning's played a lot better. But I think if you're watching the show to become a more informed and smarter college football, have better conversations about this. At least our take, I think, is Arch Manning shouldn't be drafted this year. He needs another year. It's better. No. It's gotten a heck of a lot better. You have to be a lot more optimistic. You have to need hope for next year. Whereas middle of the season, my father's a Texas alum and fan was like, what are we going to do? Because we're in trouble, but maybe not quite back completely. Because Jared, we talked about Beck. We talked about Cristobal. The end of game shenanigans that could happen in this one. To me, this is the only of the first round playoff games that's a true playoff game, and that you have 2 teams that I think were truly deserving to be there. Whereas I'm not sure Oklahoma or Alabama, either one of them did, and neither one of these group of 5 teams are deserving to be there in the sense that they're probably going to get blown out. Great for them for having great seasons. I love that they have the access to it, but this is at least the one of the 4 games that 2 really good teams, either one of these teams could get on a run and make it deeper into the playoff, whereas I'm a little bit more skeptical about a bunch of the other teams here that we're talking about. But the winner of this game got a real chance to have an edge here, be a live team, making a deeper run. Miami's definitely got the talent. They started off so amazing. They hit that midseason lull, with the Louisville game and the SMU game where they were 10-point favorites in both and couldn't quite win either one of them, but they got it back going again in the right direction. Not a strong schedule, but I will point out that they did, even though their schedule wasn't overly strong, they still covered 6 of the 10. They've still covered 6 of their last 10 here. And so it's a situation, 7 of the 12 overall in the season, a situation where they're still doing well relative to the market expectations, even though they've had some struggles in those, some individual games. And it's not just the fact that they couldn't win as 10-point favorites because they won at Florida State and covered as a 4-point favorite. They beat Florida as an 8.5-point favorite. You say, oh, those teams turned out to not be that good. We get into the last game of the season as at Pitt as 6.5-point favorites, and they won that game by 31. So they've had games where they've played teams in their stratosphere and done just fine. not just, it's not just like, oh, they beat up on the bad teams, right? They beat up on a lot of teams as well. And so hopefully they can, at least for our states, they can, put some of those, that midseason woes behind them and take care of business. Personally, I'm taking the 3.5 though, Cousin Jared, 3.5 or split. What did you say your preference on that was?
I'm definitely going to split my bet on this one.
All right. Cousin Jared, Tulane and Ole Miss, our second first round rematch. Yeah, here we are. We're going to go over 57 as a B grade. Sideline says the average game will have about 60 points. Because I think we kind of tap the brakes on this one. Are we sure about this one? And the reason I say that is these two teams have already played before. 55 points, so didn't reach this number. And when you look at them on the season, Tulane has gone under 9 of their 13 games. Ole Miss has been 50-50 to the over, but Tulane has been a massive under team, including an incredible performance, in my opinion, to hold UNT to only 21 points. So that was at home. But they've been a strong under team. The week before that, they couldn't cover 31 points against Charlotte because they didn't score 31. But their defense allowed 0. So their defense did everything they literally could with regards to the comeback. They may be scoring more points themselves. They've been just such a strong defensive team all season, and offensively they've done just enough to stay under a bunch of these numbers. So when you look at the first game, when you look at the Tulane part, you're thinking under, but the model says over. How sure are we about this game actually getting over, kind of breaking a couple of those trends?
So I like the over in this one because I think Ole Miss is going to score a lot of points fast, and then I think they're going to get everybody who has any chance of stopping somebody on Tulane off the field. So they don't get hurt or anything like that. And Tulane maybe makes this closer than the way that the game actually feels. Because I'm like you, I haven't seen anything from either of these teams that has made me think this game's going to be materially different from the first one, aside from somehow, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but potentially there could be a lower effort put forward by the Ole Miss defense in the second half of this game, just because, in the first half of the season, you're first part of the season, you're trying to see, who are the backups, kind of settling some stuff on the depth charts, especially in non-conference stuff. Everybody's trying to make a good impression. And now you're just kind of out here. It's like, we're up by 3 touchdowns. We got to play again pretty soon. It's cold. How much time's left in this game? So I think that Tulane can do more, maybe because Ole Miss just kind of lets their foot off gas at the end. And maybe Tulane scores some garbage time points.
I think this is a situation. Last thing I'll say on this before we move to our final game here of this episode is sometimes I think people get caught up a little bit too much in against the spread, against the total record, without remembering that record is a binary variable. And when you reduce it's a street, I guess, but a richer data set with regards to margin of cover, margin of over, margin of error, how much did you go over under by? Is more important. When you take that number for every game and then you reduce it to a yes, no, you lose some information. And I think that is the important thing to keep in mind, because this game had a total of 61 in the first meeting, and the total has dropped 4 points, partially because Tulane's been more of an under team, but I'm guessing partially in response to that first game being a game that went under. But folks, we were literally one play away from that game getting to 62 and going over. And so the model looks at this and I don't think that total was that poorly set. Like in that around 60 number makes a lot of sense. This is another key number situation because 58, 59 are your key numbers in the upper 50s. And that's what this is about to me. If this is set at 59, I'm not going over.
And I should have said this earlier. I don't think Ole Miss is, I don't know if Trinity Chambliss started the first game. I don't know if Simmons was playing in this game, if Simmons was hurt in this game the first time that they played, but I don't recall.
It was Chambliss.
Okay, it was Chambliss. Okay, well, there you go. So
I think there was an injury. Chambliss did great as well. 300 yards passing, no interceptions, and 112 on the ground on 14 carries.
Yeah.
I think might have been his coming out game.
Yeah. Ole Miss is going to score, and I think Tulane scores late.
Absolutely. Again, you don't have to watch it. Just as a reminder.
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, if you need to spend time with friends or family, if you got some shopping to do, watch the first half, and then you don't have to go do other things.
Yeah.
The bet will win or lose on its own, so you don't have to live and die with it if you got other things to do. Same thing for this last game, folks. I don't really think this one's going to be close at all. James Madison and Oregon, just really rough travel for James Madison, literally across the entire country.
Yeah.
We're going to go over as well. This would be great. Key numbers matter game, our key numbers official game here. 51 and 52 are your key numbers in the low 50s. Model says it should be just on the other side of that. And a half, 50 and a half could maybe be an A grade depending on exactly how hard you want to squint, because it gets you to win on 51 rather than the push, and it's an extra half point away now from the model's projection. So B plus grade, right, kind of on the verge. I'm not sure at 50 and a half if I would say that's an A grade, but at least it would warrant more consideration from that. This one really is a situation where my biggest concern is Dan Lanning is so hyper-focused on, we've talked about this, he's so hyper-focused on winning and winning it all. And so every move he makes is designed to maximize his probability of lifting that trophy. And I love it. It's exactly what I would be doing. Massive respect. The downside of that is it might be a situation where Oregon really takes their foot off the gas in the second half. We've seen them do that. We've seen Oregon. We played a lot of Oregon unders this year. We've done really well with a lot of our Oregon unders this year. We didn't get the last Oregon under we had, though, against USC. So it's a reminder, Oregon can still play a high-scoring game. And so that's kind of the hope here, is that, we didn't get the last Oregon under, and the Oregon unders have been pretty good for a lot of different reasons. I'm a little bit worried about that landing factor, but in reality, this game is such a mismatch that I'm just not sure. I mean, Oregon might score 50 themselves. I feel like they're just going to get out big early. What's your take on this game?
Yeah. So we have lost our share of James Madison overs this year, especially early in the season. But the cause for a lot of that was because the opponent was not doing their part, or James Madison's defense was good, however you want to look at that. It was more of the opposing team not doing enough. James Madison, we were going over numbers in the upper 40s, low 50s, and James Madison was getting, 28, 34 points. They were doing their part, but it was really the opposing team that wasn't. Oregon's going to do their part. I don't know if that means that Oregon gets to 38. I don't know if that means that Oregon gets to 45. I don't know what it is, but I think Oregon does their part, and I don't think James Madison is going to have to do too much, especially, at a number like 51 in the low 50s. To get over that number. This is one where I think, and honestly, I don't even know what Sideline has this projected as, but this to me is one of those things like, I'm playing this over at 50 and a half and 51, but this is it. I'm not playing it over 51. And if it goes to like 55 or, whatever, again, I don't even know what Sideline projected this as, but if it was like 55, it's almost like go under. Like, I feel like this has a very narrow range in my mind where this game ends up, and that's in the low 50s.
Because the projection's on screen, because the average game is 54.5 points. Come on.
Okay. Well, see, that shows you how much I don't barely pay attention to this stuff half the time. I'm just here to give my opinions. So,
well, we definitely struggle with some of the James Madison overs earlier in the season. I want to point out James Madison is 3 points away. They were 3 points across 2 games away from having gone over in 7 straight games. So, we lost some of those James Madison unders earlier in the season. Early in the season.
Yeah.
We've won plenty of unders on Oregon, but these two teams have been around 500 on the totals. James Madison with their strength later, Oregon kind of in and out throughout the season. So it's not like there's anything. When you look at the trend part of it, the over actually is the way to lean based off of James Madison. The other way to look at this could be a first half over if you're really worried about Oregon getting up and then taking their foot off the gas, doing something crazy like that. Oregon right now is favored by, it looks like 21-ish. Sideline has it at 21, so spot on. So there's not really an edge there. I'm not sure I'd lay more than 21 just because Oregon could be up, like I said, the landing and take his foot off the gas. Oregon could be up 35 zip at the half, and then they might end up winning, or 34 zip at the half or something. They might have put 34-21 or something like that. There are a lot of ways that Oregon and Ole Miss both win big, win convincingly, and yet don't cover those numbers. So I'm not running to lay those numbers. I'm not fading those numbers. I'm just saying I'm not sure either one will be competitive, but instead maybe some small value on both of these overs, especially at the numbers that they're at currently. Right now, there are some 50 and a halves out there that I could see in the market. So again, getting these numbers at the right numbers, knowing your key numbers here. A lot of the ones you've highlighted here are your key numbers. And so again, we've sent these out 48 hours ago, but so far not a lot of movement to really deter. So you got plenty of time still, viewer, to make sure you get these in at the right numbers here. One of these is probably going to land right around this number, and that one extra win might shift your week from losing to winning, or might shift it from neutral to winning, might shift you from winning a little to winning a lot, right? So every time you
Yeah.
can get an extra win or so from those half points, full points, whatever, can be a huge benefit. That's our show here. Again, 2 more bowl shows coming for you as well. A bunch of other benefits over on Patreon. Otherwise, Cousin Jared, parting words before we shift back into college basketball for a little bit and return to college football here in about another week and a half.
Let's hope that a couple of these first round playoff games are exciting, because I think a couple of them are gonna not be. So let's say, I would just be joyous if we could get 2 good games out of those.
Because was your memory of the playoff last year? Was your recollection that the playoff games were good last
In the
year,
first
or
round,
did you
no,
feel like
no.
the overall was a disappointment? Really?
I mean, I felt like it was a little bit of a disappointment, just because I think we had built it up so much with going to the 16-team playoff. But it's just like the one that sticks out to me is like Tennessee and Ohio State may have been like one of the best first round games. And it was like it was fine, but it never really felt like Tennessee was going to win that game.
No, I would say Ohio State ran away.
No, okay. Maybe it was close early, and I'm just misremembering. Yeah. So anyway, no, I felt like the first round games were great, which is partly what led to this seeding being done, kind of redone. All the teams who played the first week ended up winning the second week. Nobody wanted to buy after last year, so they changed up some things. But yeah, the 2 rematches this year, it's really don't feel great about those rematches.
Yeah, the closest game last year in the first round was Notre Dame beating Indiana by 10. The second round, you had the double overtime game with Arizona State and Texas, and that was
that
a lot of fun.
Great. Yep.
But the next closest game was Notre Dame, who beat Georgia by 13. And then your semifinal games were good. At that point, Ohio State did end up winning by 14 over Texas. But that was a game, if I remember correctly, Texas was driving to tie it later in that game. And then there was like a 90-yard scoop and scores, pick six, something like that. And then Notre Dame Pitt State was a 3-point game. And then, of course, the championship game was Ohio State felt like they were in control of that. But I'm like, there were, of all the games, there were 3 or 4 good ones and a bunch of games that were just kind of like, started off and then something happened and then you just kind of were like waiting for something to change and it never did. So hopefully this year's just better. But I'm like, I'm not thinking we're going to have a great first round. Hopefully I'm wrong. But if anything else, I don't mind if it's not that entertaining as long as we're making money. So that's something else to consider. Again, everyone, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out college basketball shows if you haven't yet. Check out the link for Patreon in the show description if you haven't yet. Thanks for being with us all season. We got a couple more for you. And again, remember, responsible betting, folks, is what we want to continue to preach here. It's what we always talk about, remembering that there's no such things as locks in betting. We want to make sure we keep our unit size smaller so we don't have to reload our betting accounts, right? All these things. And the way we a lot of times end our shows as a reminder of that is by reminding people, you can eat, literally, you can eat money. Wouldn't do it, but you can. But please, whatever you do, you're eating money shouldn't be your betting money.